أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
إن الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره وأعوذ بالله من شرور أنفسنا وسيئات أعمالنا من يهد الله فلا مضل له ومن يضلل فلا هادي له وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدا عبد الله ورسوله يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله وقولوا قولا سديدا يصلح لكم أعمالكم ويغفر لكم ذنوبكم ومن يطع الله ورسوله فقد فاز فوزا عظيما فإن أصدق الحديث كتاب الله تبارك وتعالى وخير الهدي هدي محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم وشر الأمور محدثاتها وكل محدثة بدعة وكل بدعة ضلالة وكل ضلالة في النار. Respected elders, brothers and sisters, we thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for witnessing this day in this important month, Muharram, one of the 4 sacred months in Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He mentioned, He bestowed on this ummah in this life from creation 12 good months. 12 months in the year. And among these 12 months from creation, He made 4 of them sacred. And the reminder today is going to be based on the end of the year. That is the finish of the previous year and the beginning of the new year. And the Muslim New Year, we know, begins with Al-Muharram. And this month is one of the 4 sacred months and is called the month of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He has given this ummah a lot of blessings. And one of them is giving us every information we need through our Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Everything we need to know is in this deen. Nothing is hidden. And from day one, everything has been clear till the end of time. So everything we need to know is in this deen. All what we need to know, do is to ask questions if we don't know. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentioned, فَاسْأَلُوا أَهْلَ الذِّكْرِ إِن كُنتُمْ لَا تَعْلَمُونَ. Number 1 is to learn the deen. That is to acquire knowledge of the deen. And the most important knowledge in this life is the knowledge of the Sharia. The Sharia knowledge that will make you know your creator and how to worship your creator. That is the most important knowledge. The scholars, they say that is the only knowledge that is mentioned in Islam. Other knowledge that is people seek for are purposely to seek our living, to seek our risk, and to walk in this life, and to find ways how to live in this life. Every other knowledge, apart from the knowledge of the Sharia. So they consider the real knowledge is the knowledge of the Sharia. And Rasulullah he said, Talabul alim faridatan ala kulli Muslim. Every Muslim is far from them to seek the knowledge of the Sharia. Because that is the only way for us to understand this deen and follow the right path, the path of the Salaf Salih. Apart from that path, every other path is leading us astray. And this month, Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he used to fast this month prior to his migration to Medina. He used to fast this month, especially the Ashura, the 10th of Muharram. He used to fast this day, the 10th of Muharram. And after Hijrah, he found the Yahud in Medina were fasting this day, the 10th of Muharram. And he asked questions, why do they fast this day? The Yahud, they said, because this is the day Musa alayhi salam, that great prophet of Allah, was saved from the enemy of Allah, Fir'aun and his people. Musa alayhi salam and his people, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala saved them from Fir'aun and his people. And this is the day that Fir'aun and his people were destroyed. And Musa alayhi salam was saved with his people. And what do we learn from this? Why do they fast this day? There's lessons. There are lessons to learn. Why do they fast this day? And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, Musa alayhi salam, we have more right to Musa alayhi salam than all of you, than any of the Ahlul Kitab. The Muslims have more right on Musa than any of them. So it's more incumbent on us as Muslims to fast this day than any other nation or any other Ahlul Kitab. So that's why he recommended a sunnah, and it's a great sunnah to fast the 10th of Muharram. It's highly recommended. And there is great benefit and great forgiveness in fasting the 10th of Muharram. And in order to make himself to differ from the Yahud, he said, if I live the following year, I will fast the 9th of Muharram in order to differentiate. Because he always wants to be different with the Yahud. Whatever the Yahud do, he never want to be on the same line with them. Because we are Muslims. And the Muslim is the final nation on this earth. And every other nation or every other Ahlul Kitab should follow the deen of Islam. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he mentioned, Inna dina inda Allahi al-Islam. The only religion that is acceptable to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is Islam. And there is no other religion. So after Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, if you follow any other life or any other religion, you're leading yourself to hellfire. After his Risala, every other nation or every other Ahlul Kitab before him should follow his ways and follow the religion of Islam and follow his Sunnah as well. So he used to fast the 10th of Muharram, but he make it also a Sunnah for his nation, his Ummah, to follow his footsteps. They also will have a great blessing and reward for fasting the day of Ashura. And the day of Tashura, that's the 9th, he recommended that as well. Because what we have to pay attention to is these three sunnahs of Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, Sunnah Qawliya and Sunnah Takririya And the third sunnah is sunnah fi'liya. The sunnah that he mentioned, the qawliya, we should follow him. And the sunnah that he performed himself, we should follow him in that as well. And the sunnah he recommended. And this one, he recommended this sunnah. He said, if I live the following year, I will also fast the 9th of Muharram. So the scholars, they say, which one is better? They said the minimum you can do is fast the 10th. But if you can't, if you want to do more, then you can fast the 9th and the 10th. But if you want to do more than that, you fast 9th, 10th, and the 11th. So all that, the strongest of all is 9th and the 10th, because that alone will make you differ from the Ahlul Kitab, the Yahuds, because they only fast only the 10th. And the lessons we learn from this: why do Yahuds fast this 10th of Muharram? Because Allah has given them a blessing and a favor. What's the favor? The favor is saving Musa alayhi salam and his people from Fir'aun, the enemy of Allah, La'natullahi alayhi. And that favor, that means if Allah give you favor, what you should do is thank Allah, not to disobey him in that favor. That is the lesson we learn from this. Because Allah favored the Yahud and saved them from Fir'aun. For that favor, they fast to thank Allah. So how many favors do we have, and how many times do we thank Allah? We ask ourselves. And this is the month that we should do self-assessment. Tazkiyatun nafs. We should assess ourselves of the things that we have been through from the past year up to this time. We count how many salahs we missed on time. We count how many sunnahs do we leave. How can we improve ourselves? How we've been doing the adhkar that's recommended by the Prophet ﷺ, daily adhkars, adhkaru sabah al-masa, adhkaru naum, and the others adhkar, adhkaru salah. There are so many adhkars that's recommended for Muslims. Are we sticking to those things? Because if you love Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam, then we should follow his footsteps and follow his sunnah. That is how to show our love to him. So self-assessment for this month. Umar bin al-Khattab, there is a famous saying, he always say, Hasibu anfusakum qabla an tuhasabu. He said, assess yourself. Weigh yourself before you are weighed. Assess yourself before you are assessed. And judge yourself before you are judged. And this is the time we will have to engage ourselves in that self-assessment more than any other time. Because the year of a Muslim, the new year of a Muslim, is different from the year of the Ahlul Kitab or the Christians and the Jews. Their new year is December. Our new year, unfortunately, our brothers and sisters, they follow this new year of December more than this year, this new year of the Muslims. We need to learn our deen and understand our new year is Al-Muharram. From the 1st of Muharram, that's the new year for the Muslims. And there are recommendations to follow, and that's the ummah of Rasul sallallahu alaihi wasallam. If we follow these recommendations throughout the year, there is great hope for us in Akhirah, because that is following his footsteps and the footsteps of the rightly guided caliphs and the Salafus Salih. And fasting the day of Ashura, he mentioned, will expiate a year of sins. That's the past year. From last year to now, all what we have done in terms of sins will all be forgiven when we fast the day of Ashura. That alone, the 10th of Muharram. So that's a great reward and forgiveness we cannot afford to miss. And it's an opportunity for everyone to encourage our families, our loved ones, to fast this day, the 10th of Muharram. And to increase more reward, we fast the 9th of Muharram according to the recommendations and the advice of our Prophet Sallallahu Rabbi Wasallam alayhi. So 9th of Muharram and 10th of Muharram are the best days to fast in this month. And we can earn ourselves one full year of forgiveness, and any blessings in that we will not know, only Allah knows. And the fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said, is for Him. Many other deeds, He asked, tell the angels to write the deeds. The deeds will start from 10 folds up to 700, up to accounts that we will not know. بغير حساب. But with fasting, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He said He is going to reward that Himself. He will reward the fasting Himself. وَأَنَا صَوْمُ لِي وَأَنَا أَجْزِي بِهِ. This fasting is for me, and I am the one to reward it. So therefore, the fasting, one of the advice Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam He gave is to stick to fasting, because it will lead you to paradise, and a door in Jannah called Ar-Rayyan. Only the people fasting will enter that door. It's a door of Jannah, Ar-Rayyan. And no other person will enter that door except those who fast. When Yawm al-Qiyam, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will call out, where are those who fast? And they will come out in their numbers, and they will enter that door, Ar-Rayyan. And once they enter, that door will be locked. No other person will enter. So that's a very important act of worship. There are many acts of worship we can follow, but this one especially will fasting one day for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, for His sake alone, will keep a person's face from Jahannam 70 years. 70 years away from Jahannam, fasting one day for Allah's sake. So one of the ways to save oneself from Jahannam and keep you away from Jahannam is fasting. And Ramadan is recommended. I mean, that's obligatory. We cannot, the Muslims, where we exceed one another in deeds is the sunnah deeds that's recommended for us. Not everyone do them. And some people will say this is just sunnah. And that's a very big thing to say. In this day, the sunnah of Rasul is a big thing. If you don't do it, just be silent. Either encourage people to do it or do it yourself. And our fellow Muslims will pass us in reward because of these sunnahs. Because almost everyone, as a Muslim, will do the fards. The salah, we all do the salah. And the fasting, the Ramadan, we all do Ramadan. We all fast Ramadan. And these obligatory fasts and obligatory deeds, we did do them all together as Muslims. But when it comes to the sunnah, you count the people who stick to it. And that's why we should ask Allah to make us steadfast in these deeds. Because being steadfast in this sunnah is one of the ways to acquire the greatest of reward. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He will always test His creation. And the Muslims, we all know how many times we are tested. And every time we are tested, one time we will sometimes fail the test. And we should always pray and ask Allah to keep us steadfast. Because sometimes we do start a good deed and we will not continue with it. That's a big test. And Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, he said, the best of deeds, most beloved to Allah, is the deeds that is constant and continue, that is continuous, even if it is small. Even if it is a small deed, but as long as it's continuous, that is more beloved to Allah than any other deed. And if it is big and continuous, it's even better. So we have to do all we can to maximize our effort and maximize our ibadah in this month, because it's one of the sacred months. And all what we need to do also is to stay away from sins, because these sacred months, as Allah mentioned, and anytime we come across this month, it will always take us to one ayah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling us not to wrong ourselves in these months. Not to wrong ourselves in these months, because committing sins in these months will multiply into many folds, more than any other month, because they are sacred. And that is Dhul Qada, Dhul Hijjah, Al Muharram, that's the month we are, and Rajab. These 4 months, they are sacred. So we do as much good deeds as we can. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم واستغفروه إنه هو الغفور الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين والعاقبة للمتقين ولا عدوان إلا على الظالمين. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. ربنا آتنا في الدنيا حسنة وفي الآخرة حسنة وقنا عذاب النار. Brothers and sisters, we continue with the second part of the khutbah. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, He told us that everything we do and say is recorded. So we have to be careful in these months. Our words is part of our amal, the deeds we send in akhirah, the words we spoke, the words we speak. It's one of them, and the deeds we do is also part of them. And there are angels Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent to every human being, our left and right. They are called Kiraman Katibin. These Kiraman Katibin, not one single atom of weight of deed will escape them. They record everything, good or bad. The one recording the bad is on the left, and the recording the good is on the right. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala told us in Surah Kahf, Ma yalfidhu min qawlin illa ladayhi raqibun atid. He said, we will not mention a word except that the angels will write it down. And one of the Salafis said, if a person did not count his word as part of his deeds, then he's leading himself to doom. Our words are part of our deeds. And Allah told us every word we speak, good or bad, is recorded. Ma yalfidhu min qawlin illa ladayhi raqibun atid. And that will testify, because every human being will write a book. We are our own author. We are writing authoring a book that we are going to find in Akhirah. You know, we have so many authors in this life, the books that they write. But our own book, we're going to find it in Akhirah. And when we arrive there, that book will be given to us to read and examine ourselves and judge ourselves. That book, we are the author of that book. And Allah will tell you, read your book. He will not say to anyone, read somebody's book. Every person will read his own book. And what you write there, whether it's wrong or right, you cannot say anything apart from that. If you try to say, Allah will seal your tongue and tell the limbs to speak. The hands, the legs, the eyes, every part of your limb will speak for what they do. So we cannot say otherwise. That day, everything we do will testify exactly what we have done. If we try to defend ourselves, as always human being is, then Allah will seal our tongue and tell the limbs to speak. And when the person asks the limbs, why do you speak so much about me? And you don't even leave even an item of deed. They will tell the person, the creator who made the tongues to speak is the one who make us to speak. So they have no other choice. That is a great day. And we do all we can to send forth the best of deeds. Because that day, those who have the good deeds and the best of deeds will be proud. And they would want everybody to see their kitab. But those who have the worst of deeds will be dreadful, and they will have the greatest fear, and they will hide their books. They will not want anyone to see them because of the deeds in them. So this is the time we should assess ourselves. Self-assessment for the past year into this new year. Let us live, improve ourselves, and live a better life as Muslims. As Muslims, we live a better life. That is the way to rectify our mistakes. Because human beings, we are created to make mistakes. Nobody is perfect, as we all know. Nobody is perfect. Everybody will make mistake. But Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam said, "Kullu bani Adam khata, wa khayru khata'ina tawwabin." Every human being will make mistake, will commit sins. But the best of those who commit sins are those who repent. Wa khayru khata'ina tawwabin. So Allah's mercy, we always should have that hope in Allah's mercy. And Allah always told us never to despair in His mercy. So anytime we've fallen into sin, we go back to Allah. Anytime we fall into sin, let us go back to Allah and ask for forgiveness. And surely Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is most forgiving and most merciful. May Allah make us steadfast in this deen and make us successful in this life and next life. And the one thing I will always emphasize is for us to increase our gratitude to Allah and always thank Him for His ni'mah. Instead of, like the Yahuds they do, they thank Him for His ni'mah of saving them. They fast the 10th of Ashura. But sometimes Allah has given you blessings by giving you offsprings. But what will we do on the day of the Aqiqah? Music. Things that will offend Allah. We do things that will offend Allah. And that's most of us are like that, even back home. We engage in things that are sinful. And to thank Allah and His favor, for His favor on us, is to thank Him for His blessings and also use those blessings to worship Him. Use those blessings. That's one of the ways to thank Allah. The blessings He has given you, use them. Like He has given you a son, make that son to know Allah as number one priority. Don't take your son as a priority to schools and make him not to learn the Quran. And that will make you not to thank the favor of Allah. The favor Allah has given you, it will make you not to thank Him. To thank Allah for His favors is to make those favors, to worship Allah in those favors and thank Him in those favors. And that's favor. And He said, if you thank me for my favors, I will increase them for you. May Allah grant us tawfiq in all our dealings and all our amal, and make us steadfast in this deen. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم علمنا ما ينفعنا وانفعنا بما علمتنا وزدنا علما. ربنا افرغ علينا صبرا وثبت اقدامنا وانصرنا على القوم الكافرين. اللهم صل على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما صليت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم انك حميد مجيد. اللهم بارك على محمد وعلى ال محمد كما باركت على ابراهيم وعلى ال ابراهيم في العالمين انك حميد مجيد. قوموا الى صلاتكم يرحمكم الله.